That's what's great about being around it, is you start to see the positive, and then you start to see the hope and the happiness in the future and the reunification of families, and you can see what drives people to keep going and beat this sucker to death.
Welcome to another edition of Recovery Happens. My name is Patrick Patterson, Center Manager for BW Rock. September is National Recovery Month, and we want to thank you. Today we're going to be sitting down with one of Michigan's important supporters of the recovery community, Senator Dan Lauwers.
I'm Dan Lauwers. I'm State Senator for the Blue Water area, all the way from the tip of the thumb down into Anchor Bay area. People often ask me, how do you like being a senator, or how do you like serving in this capacity? And I always say, if you like solving problems and helping people, this is the best job in the world, because that's what you do all day. So, we can be conduits of communication for people to help solve problems, like with your outreach efforts. We're in the public eye, and we talk to such a variety of people too. I come from an agricultural background, but in this role, yesterday I was touring a factory that makes carburetors and gas tanks. You get exposed to everything. The exposure here at B-Rock is, I'm out there before being elected, living my life, totally unaware of most of all the stuff that goes on. Operation Transformation, another great service in our community. Totally unaware that there's people out there working every day to help others make transitions in their lives for the better. I think it's really important to support the recovery community, because if you've never been exposed to addiction, most people don't know what to do. I'm not sure I would know exactly what to do, but I remember the first family I knew that was impacted by addiction. It was a good friend of mine, and his son was injured in high school sports. Became addicted to opioids, and the family really didn't know it for a long time. Once they did know it, they really didn't know exactly what to do about it, and they primarily tried to handle it all on their own, and it ended just horribly, tragic end to it. So, and I had no idea this was even going on in this person's life. I mean, we were close, we were good friends, and one day we're meeting, and I just knew he was out of sorts, and I said, "What is going on?" I said, "How's the kids?" And he just broke down because he lost his son the week before to addiction, and that was a long time ago. That was back before anybody talked about this stuff, and so I think that a lot of times people associate addiction with some kind of bad life choices or something like that, and the more you get exposed to it, the more people hear about it, the more you find out that addiction affects people everywhere of all walks of life, and quite often has nothing to do with bad choices or bad lifestyle or something like that. It could be just things that have happened to a person or a family, and it can be something that, even like in this case, was prescribed by a doctor. Everybody thinks it's the right thing, and it's just not knowing how to handle it. And so, the work that B-Rock does by getting out there, getting in the community, reaching out to people that may not know how to handle these things, and of course, there can be, you can be embarrassed or something like that. You don't want to talk about it to people, or you're afraid where to go. I think that's what's so critical about this program, because you're actually out there making yourself available, and probably coming at a ways where a person doesn't have to surrender everything and walk through the door of something to ask for help. And that's, I think that's probably one of the hardest things for people to do. Anybody with pride has a hard time, saying, "Hey, I need help."
So what do you think it might take to help aid in the efforts to overcome the opioid epidemic?
Well, first it takes awareness and understanding from everyone, just as my eyes have been open to it. And then it takes realizing and accepting that this affects everybody everywhere, and that nobody is above it or and very likely nobody's ever going to not be exposed to it or have it impact their lives. So, working together and working towards solution rather than judging, as people often do when they're ignorant of exactly what's involved. People are prone to judge, and what I see is the way the community is working together to address this issue. I was amazed at one of your events how open the people are that are a part of recovery. Just like you and I talking right now. I mean, I was talking with a person, and she said, yeah, and she was talking to, there was a priest there, and she was just, she was just proud and happy to tell him where she was in her recovery and how well she was doing, and that's totally different than if you've never been exposed to that. You don't realize that people that are struggling through this, they're so happy to be working with others that are supportive and I guess not judgmental. So when you start to see that, that's how I can start to understand people that, like yourselves, can do this work, because not being from it, I often look at the people that are working in this community and to address these issues, and I think, oh Lord, how can you do it? I had always looked at it from the negative side, I guess, and had never been exposed to the positive side. So that's what's great about being around this. You start to see the positive, and then you start to see the hope and the happiness in the future and the reunification of families. And you can see what drives people to keep going and beat this sucker to death.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of Recovery Happens. Blue Water Recovery and Outreach Center is not a state-funded program. We're privately funded by individual donors like yourself. If you'd like to partner with us, join the fight by going to bwroc.org and click Donate. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Chef Shells.